If you're looking to make a change to get improved performance, improve your sleep, and help you with your weight loss journey, try Optimum Day and Night. Make a change as soon as you can.
And these have been a real game changer in my health journey. Optimum Day helps your metabolism burn throughout the day, and Optimum Night helps you get a really good sleep throughout the night.
And here's some real life proof on screen right now. Both Robbie and Michael Owen teamed up with Oxford Natural for their wellness journey, and you can see the results for yourself.
So if you want to start your health journey today, click the link in the description below. Get 70% off your first order with the code WATTV. We're going to start off talking about Lucas Bergvall, as there has been a bit of a development. So Simon Jones says that Nottingham Forest are preparing a new 45 million bid for Lucas Bergvall. Sammy Mockbell also saying that basically the same thing, that Nottingham Forest are now set to make an improved offer of £45 million for Lucas Bergvall. If that is true, I think that's going to be the deal that gets done.
Sounds like we want 50. So I think it's getting closer, isn't it? I think it'll probably be 45, probably plus some add-ons, probably plus a sell-on percentage, probably plus some sort of clause in there of a buy. I don't know, what, first refusal or whatever, all these things they like to put in it. Rafi Mawson has been very good at putting in these clauses for all the deals that we've done so far. So I'm sure these are going to be kind of non-negotiables when it comes to selling Bergvall to Forest. But 45 million sounds like we're nearly there, I think. And as we've said many times, it is a shame. I think we all would love to see Bergvall fulfill his potential in a Tottenham shirt rather than somewhere else. But it seems like the timing and the way things have gone, ever since he's come, and also with De Zerbi and the way we've acted this summer, there has to be some casualties and some compromises. And it seems as though Bergvall is going to be one of the biggest casualties for us when it comes to... It is getting a good fee, so it's not like the end of the world, but... It's just a shame that, I think we all had very high hopes and still do for Lucas Bergvall and his talent, and we've seen it in the Spurs shirt. But when you're getting that kind of fee, when you've got the midfielders coming through the door that we've got, and you've got Bergvall, looking to really kick on from a couple of years ago when he's kind of stagnated a bit, that's kind of the inevitable conclusion, it seems, of this story. So hopefully we reinvest the money and it goes towards improving the squad. And as long as that happens, I don't think we're going to have too many complaints. Yeah. But, of course, just like with Vuskovic, there's going to be a lot of fans thinking, is this a big mistake? Well, I guess we'll see.
Look, it very well could be. And when you look at the players that we've got right now, obviously we've got the two new signings in Fernandes and Tonali. But after that, you're looking at the moment on the books, Pape Sarr, Conor Gallagher, Archie Gray, Rodrigo Bentancur. Me personally, I'd prefer probably to prioritise Bergvall over the majority of those. So it is a bit of a shame, but it is what it is. We're on to bigger and better things. We're going to be signing more players, and I'm sure more players in the future. And, the hope is that this, as much as he probably will still go on to be a top player, it shouldn't hurt us too much with the way we're set up now and the way we're doing our transfer business. So, yeah, look, it is what it is. What can you do?
And just like with Vuskovic, signing a player for, 15 million or whatever it was. How much did we sign him for? 10 million? I can't remember. But, getting 50 million for him after a couple of years when he's not just gone 20. I mean, it is sound business in that sense, and we have to be better at selling players. And when you're getting those kind of offers, you have to maybe sell when there's opportunity and bring more money in than we have done in the past. So, getting 100 million, let's be honest, we're going to get 100 million for Vuskovic and Bergvall. I mean, if that is good business. What can I say about that? One Vuskovic and Bergvall gets you a Tonali.
Yeah,
that's 100 million right there. So I don't think we can really complain. When I think in previous years, I think there would be more to complain about doing a deal like this, because would we really reinvest in the money in a big player, and would we have done it right? But in this instance, when you're getting players like Tonali and Fernandes and you're getting this kind of money through the door, I mean, I can't really sit here and say I'm angry about it too much, because you're selling two youngsters who have potential. They're not the ready-made stars yet, and you're getting someone like Tonali, who's been one of the best midfielders over the past few years in the Premier League. So you've got to say fair play to Spurs. It is good business objectively. We'll see, down the line whether, in hindsight, this is the right move, or how much Bergvall is going to be worth in the future, and all that kind of stuff. But right here, right now, I think 100 million for those two players, I don't think I could complain about that.
Look, objectively, it is good business for sure. When you're looking at what we bought them for, what we're going to sell them for. But it's just a shame, isn't it? It's just a shame because, you know, these guys are top talents, and I do think that they can go very far in the game. They can be very, very good Premier League footballers. So from that aspect, it is a shame that we're letting them go so early on when we had such high hopes for them. But I now trust that this club are going to reinvest the money properly. So as much as it's a shame, we're not going to lose too much sleep over it.
Yeah, when you've got top talents coming through the door that are established, then it doesn't really matter if Bergvall turns out to be a top talent, because we got one already. So if we're going to have one right now, starting in our midfield, you know, for the same price you're getting a Vuskovic and a Bergvall, I think that's fine. I think it, you know, doesn't really make too much difference to me. You know, maybe Bergvall turns out to be better than tonight, but right now he isn't, and that's only a maybe right now, isn't it? So I think right now it makes sense.
Yeah, we can't be dealing in ifs, buts, and maybes anymore. We got to be dealing in absolutes, and
Exactly.
that's what we're doing right now. Let's talk about Vicario. Tom Ornut said last night that Juventus have held inquiries with Tottenham for Vicario this week. £25 million is a lot for a Serie A club. Perhaps a loan with an option is going to be the way they go, but he'd be very surprised if he was at Spurs come the end of August. So this week has been some new talks with Tottenham and Juventus for Vicario.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, the valuation of Vicario, because whatever you want to say about how his last season went, and it didn't go well last season, maybe due to the hernia and whatever reasons, like we signed him for 17 million, and in theory his stock should have grown, and I don't think 25 million for a goalkeeper of Vicario's quality is outrageous. I think that's a fair deal. Yes, he didn't have the best of seasons last season, but I think he's shown for enough appearances for me in a Tottenham shirt that he's a good keeper, and that he's Premier League quality at the very least, and he's a good quality keeper. I don't think last season's form should overshadow the majority of his time at Tottenham, which I think was pretty positive in my opinion. So I think his value increasing from 17 to 25 is not unfair. But when you're looking to sell him to Serie A clubs, as he said, they don't have a lot of money. He wants to go back to Italy. They're the ones most interested at the moment. So then you have to, if he wants to leave, or especially you want to sell him, I guess there has to be a compromise if you're selling him to Serie A. Obviously, if it's a Premier League club, then 25 million should be the price. I don't think that's unfair. But if it's Juventus, Napoli, whoever, yeah, you're going to have to make a compromise there. Maybe a loan with an obligation of 20 million, something like that. I think that's a fair deal if we can get that done.
Yeah, potentially. I don't know if we're going to get as high as 20 million. I got a feeling we might just break even or even make a slight loss on it. You know, it's not too dissimilar to the Romero situation. You know what you were saying, he wants to go, we want to sell. Everyone knows that. So the price will get driven down because of that, particularly with the clubs that want to buy him. So Vicario is not too dissimilar, is he?
Yeah, the only thing is Romero, I think, is got a higher standing because of his exploits for Argentina. Vicario is obviously number 2 for Italy, and he's not got the same standing in the game as someone like Acuti Romero. So I think, again, with Romero, we should be within our rights to ask for more. Yeah, it's a similar situation, to be fair. It is a similar situation. And I think in both scenarios, we're probably not going to make the fee that we could have made in other situations, but it won't be so much less that it's going to be too much of a difference anyway.
Yeah. Next, let's talk about Richarlison, because Tom Ornut was talking yesterday on Richarlison as well. And also, who was it that was speaking about Richarlison? Paul O'Keefe about Richarlison. We brought you the news on him yesterday, saying that Juventus potentially interested, but Tom Ornut saying Richarlison could leave if they receive a good offer this summer. However, the Brazilian is happy at Tottenham. He is happy in England and settled. He's got 1 year left in his contract with the option to extend as well. If he did leave, he wants to stay in the Premier League. And Paul O'Keefe as well is saying that Richarlison wants to stay at Tottenham this summer. However, the club would like to sell. I feel like it's like Groundhog Day every year with Richarlison.
Yeah, I know.
It's the same thing, isn't it? Like the first few weeks of the window, Richarlison linked to Turkey, Richarlison linked to Saudi, Richarlison linked here, there and everywhere. And then ultimately, he doesn't want to leave. He's very happy at Spurs, and we can't find the right deals for him to leave.
I'm just going to pop down the pub to see if there's any change on his wife's personal trainer, see if she signed on again, and I'll let you know. It doesn't surprise me if, obviously, Richie knows he ain't getting any better than... Well, I mean, reportedly Juventus is interested, but I think right now, I don't think he's going to go to Juve. I think his options are going to be limited to Saudi and Turkey and those kind of places. So if you're Richie, he's just got a British passport, hasn't he? He's probably settled in London. He probably loves being at Tottenham. He probably, I think he does have quite a good rapport with the fans. Like, I think that, the fans do love him as much as there is some frustration. I think, he's a bit of a cult hero, like everyone knows he tries his best, and he does get a few goals here and there, and he's got a lovable character. But I think we also know he's a limited footballer at this current iteration of Richarlison, and we need to do better, and we need to upgrade on him right now. And his injuries, I think, have taken his toll on him over the years, especially over the last few years, and he doesn't seem athletically the same player as much as he's still capable of getting goals. I think physically he's just not the same as he was, especially when he was at Everton. So I think Tottenham need to sell, and I think even if it's not the best deal, we need to move on from him. I think last season I was of the opinion you should stick to your price, but this season I think you should be willing to lower it, and I can see someone coming in for a good price, but I guess you can't force him out. But surely he doesn't want to be a bit part player here, does he? Does he back himself to still be our starting number 9? I think he should know. Does he not come to the realisation that his time is up? Albeit, I guess over the definitely last season, he was our number 1 striker, wasn't he? Whenever he was fit, he was called upon. So until it's made clear that we're getting someone else in that position, would he back himself to battle Solanke if that was to be the case next season, to be our number 1 striker if we don't sign another striker? But I think that is the plan. So maybe once we get someone in, surely he'll know that his time is up, unless we sell Solanke instead. But I just can't see that happening. I think it's more likely to be Rishi. Surely,
it just depends what kind of interest you get in the player, and if he's hell bent on staying in England and there's no offers coming from England, then he's stuck here. If he's refusing to leave the Premier League, so it all depends on what kind of interest we can drum up. Obviously, the lower price we go, the probably more likely is that we can drum up some interest. Is he interested in joining one of like the promoted sides or a team fighting down the bottom of the league, albeit he's been fighting down the bottom of the league the last 2 seasons with Tottenham? He obviously doesn't see Tottenham as that club that should be fighting down the bottom of the league, and he's seeing us sign all these players. Obviously, a very exciting time to be at Tottenham right now. So, yeah.
He probably thinks he could benefit from that.
Yeah,
if he was
for sure.
To stay, yeah.
He's a confident guy. He'll back himself. He was, one of our top, if not our top goal scorer last season. So, yeah, I can see it from his point of view. But it's like we're here every summer. Every summer we want to sell, or we're open to selling, and every summer he wants to stay. He's got 1 more year left in his contract, but there could be another year that's triggered as well. So we could actually be seeing him here for another 2 years if we can't get a deal done.
Look, regardless, I think if we're being, acting like a big club and we're being ruthless, then whether Rishi demands to stay or not, that we should sign someone. It doesn't matter whether Rishi,
100%.
what he thinks. And if Rishi if it's his opinion, I'm going to stay, I'm going to fight for my place, and he risks rotting in the reserves or whatever, or not being picked in matchday squads, that's his prerogative. But I don't think Tottenham should be interested in that. Obviously, we should try our best to sell him, but that shouldn't impact us on my business in that position, in my opinion.
I got a feeling like this would be his stance now, that he doesn't want to leave Tottenham. But if we were to bring in another striker, he'll rethink that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So once we get someone in, maybe he'll start to think, maybe my time is actually up here. So let's see. Maybe he'll look right now that he's with Solanke in pre-season. Obviously, last season, his goal scoring record when he was picked was not terrible. So could he convince De Zerbi he's the better fit than Solanke? I mean, it's not beyond all realms of possibility that's possible. And maybe we choose to sell Solanke. But I just think right now, Solanke hasn't really gotten his opportunity under De Zerbi. I think he's probably got more to offer in the Premier League right now than Richarlison as a striker. So I think he's going to prefer Solanke, but you can't rule anything out. So maybe we'll see over pre-season what De Zerbi really chooses, and maybe they're going to be battling it out with each other to see who's the striker who's going to stay, because I do think we're going to sign one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Next up, let's talk about Savinho. Looks as though, Spurs journo is saying that Tottenham are now on the verge of signing a deal for Savinho. Green light expected from Man City soon after several weeks of club-to-club talks. Heard from Spurs saying Savinho deal close to being finalised to move to Tottenham Hotspur. Figures expected to be around £60 million with an add-ons rising to 65 million. Nearly there. Bring the fella home, he's saying. And Simon Jones is saying that Tottenham will sign Savinho, but Spurs do want 2 more forward options as well. Man City are now currently looking for wingers as they close on the sale of Savinho to Tottenham for around £65 million. So all we're waiting for now is here we go, the exclusive from David Ornstein. And once those come, I think this is going to happen. It sounds like it's all moving in the right direction now. It looks like Savinho will be the next one through the door.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, I've seen that way for a while, though. As I've always said with Savinho, to be fair, these are ITK. I mean, Simon Jones is Daily Mail, but I don't know how reliable he is. And these are ITKs, which are okay, but they're not like, the gold standard of journalists. Let's be honest.
They have been this summer.
Some of them have been. I mean, I don't know about. I mean, Heard from Spurs seems to be okay, but he's a new one, so he's hard to know. Spurs journo, obviously, I love him. So, look, if he says something, you can't just dismiss it. But doesn't mean that he's got things wrong as well. We haven't heard too many journalists, apart from Simon Jones, jumping on the fact that it's as imminent as they're saying. So we'll have to wait and see. Maybe you have to temper our expectations a little bit. But I do think this is going to happen eventually. I'm pretty confident
when
of
Romano
that.
starts retweeting, something's going to pop off soon. And that's what he was doing yesterday. And also
True.
with the whole Instagram post from Javi Simmons yesterday,
Well, Savinho posted something cryptic as well on his
he posted a picture
Instagram
of his gym at home saying I don't know what he said along
He
with
said, so I don't know if you can get it up. Let me see if I can like it. Savinho, one sec. Here it is. So I liked it on X. You can maybe bring it up. He's posted this on Instagram. It said, "See you soon. I'm going to be happy, and soon I'm back." So, and he's got a picture of a suitcase there, and that's his home gym. So
A white suitcase as well.
white suit. He loves the white. He loves the white heart and everything like that. So he's clearly been gagging for that move to Tottenham for a while.
I mean, this deal's done, man.
It's very interesting to post that. I mean, what else could it mean but that he's moving to London or whatever? That's surely what he's hinting at. I don't know what else. Maybe he's going on holiday. I mean, but surely not. It's pre-season time.
The week pre-season starts.
Yeah, I mean, what else? So that kind of implies there's something going on there behind the scenes, and the deal is getting close. I do think it's going to happen. 65 million, or 60 million. I do think that's a bit steep, but we've been overpaying all summer, and I also think the winger market isn't chucked full of loads of options. So I think when you've got someone of Savinho's quality, I think getting him over the line would be a good piece of business. I think it's probably going to be 55 to 60 plus some add-ons. That's what I would assume. I don't think it's going to be 65 straight, but look. We'll see what it comes out of.
60 plus 5 in add-ons.
60 plus, yeah, okay, that makes sense. So it's a bit steep. I think closer to 45 to 50. It's probably a bit fairer, but in this market, everyone's overpaying at the moment, and there's lots of big money flying around. So I'm excited to have him through the door. As I've said, I think he's going to suit deserve people down to a T. I think having him as options on the left or right is going to be great. I think whoever's playing up front is really going to benefit from having a winger like Savinho running at their defenders and creating space and creating chances as well. So I think it's about time we seal this and get it done. And hopefully Xavi announces it and he says it was only Tottenham.
Look, these talks have been going on for way too long. Let's just get the man through the door. Apparently greenlit from Roberto De Zerbi. The club have obviously been chasing him since last summer. My biggest concern with signing Savinho was that he was going to be the only winger that we sign this summer. But if we do sign another one, maybe a more established one that's proven to get consistent goals and assists, then that's completely fine for me. If it is Savinho and maybe another younger one that's not too proven, then I think that's a bit of an issue. But we'll have to wait and see who else we get in.
the Simon Jones and other journalists saying it's going to be Savinho plus 2 more in the forward line. So we just have to wait and see which are the 2 others. So I'm happy to bring in Savinho. I think he's got a lot of talent. Obviously, he hasn't shown it on a consistent basis for Man City over the last 2 years, but he had a phenomenal season in La Liga, which why Man City bought him. And obviously, he was highly rated at Man City because they didn't let him go last summer. And Pep Guardiola or directors at Man City blocked that deal because they believe in him. So he's definitely a player with a lot of talent. He's a player with a big future ahead of him. So I'm happy to get him through the door, but it all depends on who else we get alongside him, in my opinion.
I also think even if he shows a Man City at Tottenham, I think this is a player that is already proven, in my opinion, that he can perform in the Premier League. Now, he's not proven that he can be a consistent goal scorer, but I think this guy creates chances. He does, and he takes people on, and he's shown that even for Man City over the last couple of years. So even if we just get that version in the short term, I think that will be a real benefit to us, in my opinion. And I think it's going to take our attack on a long way, because I think our attackers over the last couple of years have not done anywhere near enough when it comes to committing defenders and creating chances, and that's what Savinho has already proven he can do. So even if we're just getting him to do that, I think it's a good signing.
Look, you look at it on the face of things, right? He can play right or left, both to a good standard. He's he's 2-footed, right?
He's more left-footed, but he's more left-footed, I would say.
But he can use his right.
Yeah, he can go out on either side. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So he comes in as our best left winger right now at the football club, and he comes in as our second best winger on the right side. If we can bring in a left winger that is potentially even better than him, then all of a sudden you're looking at really good options on the wing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we got to kind of hope to land on before the end of the transfer window. So good start. Let's hope it's an even better finish, in my opinion, for the forward line. So that's Savinho, potentially nearly done moving to Tottenham Hotspur. Let's talk about Morgan Rogers. Obviously, all the reliable journalists right now are reporting that Arsenal are now accelerating the move for Morgan Rogers. Tom Allnut says that Morgan Rogers is a name that keeps popping up for Tottenham. He'll be a dream signing, but there are other clubs interested, and it will be a very difficult deal to do, but maybe one to watch. SZY has said that Villa are looking for 110 million plus add-ons for Morgan Rogers, and he says from what he hears, it doesn't sound like Arsenal are prepared to pay that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this develops. Arsenal have been kind of going through this transfer window, not doing much. Obviously, they signed Solis for 40 million euros, I think it was. They've lowballed Newcastle for Bruno Guimaraes. That's kind of gone a bit quiet now. Are they going to try and lowball Aston Villa for Morgan Rogers now and kind of walk away without meeting what Aston Villa want? And are Spurs going to be able to be ready to pounce if that does happen?
A lot of questions there. I would be shocked if they're willing to go to 110 million. Obviously, they did go to 100 million for Rice, so they have proven they can spend that kind of money. That was, 3 years ago, 4 years ago now. So that it's not alien to them to go really big on a player they really want. But is Rodgers a player that they really desperately need? Obviously, Rice was someone who fixed their midfield. Rodgers seems like a player who supplements their current attacking options, but they do currently have Eze, they got Odegaard, they've just signed Solis as well. So, should they really be spending 100 million on Rodgers, or should they be going in a different position, which should be a priority? Obviously, only Arsenal know exactly what their intentions are with Rodgers. Maybe they want him, and he's obviously he comes in and probably is their best number 10. He's been better form than Eze and Odegaard right now. So, would one of Eze and Odegaard have to leave, or do they want to play with all of them? I don't really know what their plan is for next season. But when you look at their squad, you wouldn't necessarily say spending 100 million, 110 million on Rodgers seems completely necessary right now. Maybe if it was 80 million, something along those, maybe that makes more sense. But 110 million seems very, very steep for a player that's not necessarily a priority when it looks like in their squad when you look at it. But maybe he is. I don't know what they're thinking, is my point. But if they're not willing to go that high, for me, I think, obviously, I've said before with our number 10 position, it's a bit of a weird one for Tottenham because we have lots of good players there, but they all have individual issues, which in theory, objectively, you might not be able to trust any of them right now to actually fill that void. So that might be a bit of a priority for us right now. I'm not sure what De Zerbi thinking, or is De Zerbi thinking, I can rely on Maddison, Decky's going to be back, obviously Xavi's come back from an ACL, and once all of them are fit, I can use all of those players. Or does he look at that situation and think, Maddison has just come back from an ACL. I can't really trust him. Decky has had this long-term issue. Is he ever going to get back to his best? And Xavi currently has an ACL, so I can't obviously trust him. So do we actually... do we need to go big on a number 10 and really fix up that position in next season? I think if an opportunity like Rodgers comes around where where we could get him through the door if we bid the right money, it would be hard to say that wouldn't be necessary. And look, if Maddison comes good, or if Decky comes back, or if Xavi comes back, great. But in the meantime, can we rely on any of that? And maybe it's worth investing heavily in Rodgers and having that number 10 that we know is going to be there for the foreseeable future. And if any of the players that we mentioned are available and are back to their best, then fine, they can supplement Rodgers. But maybe Rodgers can come in and be our main guy there. So I think he's probably a bit more necessary for us than he is for Arsenal. So we've already shown we're willing to spend big and we're willing to maybe overpay for players that we truly want. We're never going to get Rodgers for a cheap deal, I don't think. So it's either we pay the money or we don't. So I think worst comes to worst, you put the money down, and I think, in my opinion, all it does is drive the price up for Arsenal anyway. So I don't see a downside of maybe putting the offer in. You know what I mean? Yeah. Put the 110 million down and put the ball in Arsenal's court and tell them, are you going to really pay that money? And force them to do it, essentially. I don't mind doing that. And if they do it, fair enough. They pay the 100 whatever. If they pay a bit more and they get the deal done, hey-ho. Or maybe even try and outbid them again and just keep driving the price up. Try and empty their coffers. I don't mind that. And look, if he ends up at Arsenal, he wants the Arsenal, if it seems anyway. So I'm kind of resigned to not getting him. But if it just drives the price up for Arsenal, I'm all for it.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because they really want Bruno, they really want Rodgers, if you believe, the reliable journalists, but it doesn't seem like everyone's saying that they're not willing to go and pay the big money for either of these players. And I'm thinking to myself, like, why aren't they willing to go so big when they've just made the Champions League final, they've just won the league, they're record profits and all this kind of stuff? And then I think back to what Josh Kroenke said at the back end of last season, and maybe this has something to do with it, because he said that they want to regenerate the Emirates Stadium to make it like the SoFi Stadium in LA. And that stadium's like probably the best stadium in the world right now, and like even better than what we have at Tottenham. And that is going to cost a hell of a lot of money to do that. So are they being hamstrung financially a little bit because of the plans to regenerate this stadium?
I don't know exactly, but they have spent a lot of money, right, over the last few years. So they have just won the league and they got to the Champions League final. So obviously they're going to look to improve where they can, but it's a very tough squad to improve on, isn't it? I'm not saying they're not going to. Of course they're going to go and sign players, but maybe they're feeling, do we have to actually spend?
Those two players definitely improve the squad.
Of course they do.
They're both up massive upgrades on what they've got.
Yeah, they do. But I don't know what they're thinking. Do they? Maybe they will. I mean, it's still quite early on in the transfer window, so it's tough to say why. Maybe they're not going early. Maybe they're more in a position, unlike Tottenham, who are kind of desperate to improve the squad. They're not desperate. They've got a very good squad who've, as I've said, have just achieved great things. So they're not in a position where they have to overspend, this money. As a matter of desperation, unlike Tottenham, who are playing catch-up right now. We're looking to catch up on all the teams above us, and we don't have the sporting project, unlike Arsenal, to sell it to players. So we're going to have to overspend to get these players through the door and sell it to them, that we're improving massively and try and catching up. Arsenal in a different position to us. They're maybe in a position where they try and find the price that's right for them, and they have an ability to walk away if the price isn't right and not overspend. So because they feel comfortable with their own squad right now. Obviously, when you're at the top, you have to try and kick on and you have to try and push on from that. We obviously saw though with Liverpool, it's not very easy to do that if you're just going to spend 500 million after winning the league. Maybe that's not the right thing to do all the time. You have to make small incremental changes. So maybe Arsenal don't want to spend 300 million on all these new players just after winning the league. Maybe they want to upgrade, but only on their terms. Maybe that's what they're feeling.
I just think it's a poor. I think
could be something in it with the new stadium stuff, and it could be work to our delight, to be honest, because, you know, if Arsenal don't go to these big prices, then all of a sudden we become a big player for some of these players, particularly Morgan Rogers. So we'll see what happens in the future regarding that. Maybe Arsenal do just go stump up the money and then it's just a non-story and we can crack on with hating him for next season. But right now, Spurs could swoop in there. Let's talk about Kroupi. There's some more updates regarding him. And Tom Allnut says, no, not Tom, SZY says that Kroupi is still being targeted by Tottenham this summer. Spurs Journo says, after Savinho is finalised, I reckon we'll try again for Kroupi. The issue is, like I said, currently there isn't a real indication that a bid of close to 100 million euros would be actually enough to complete the deal unless there are incredibly favourable terms. So, yeah, I mean, there is a suggestion that now, after we get Savinho, Kroupi will be the next one on the list that we'll try and attack.
Yeah, and there's obviously been a lot of talk about Tottenham and Kroupi. We've had our say on it a number of times. I mean, 100 million euros, that's about 85 million pounds. We've obviously spoken about that kind of figure. It looks like they're going to want as close to that 100 million pound mark as possible. So, which is a crazy fee for someone like Kroupi. And he could be a 100 million pound player. He's not proven to be that good, but he has proven to be a very good player at his age after only 1 year in the Premier League. And teams now, teams are obviously noticing those kind of things a lot quicker than they used to. Teams who have those players are noticing what they've got a lot quicker than they used to. So that is showing why a player like Kroupi, who's 20 years and 13 goals in the Premier League, is already a player they're demanding 100 million for. Like even a few years ago, Evan Ferguson, Brighton were demanding 100 million for him when he had half a decent season in the Premier League. That's just kind of the going rate. When you've got a young striker with that kind of talent, you know, and the selling club not wanting to sell, you know, you're going to have to make it worth their while to get it over the line. So if we want him, we're going to have to probably spend 100 million, and we're going to have to be comfortable with that. And we have to make that internal kind of decision. Is it worth it? Are we certain that this talent is as good as we think? Or is it, you know, could he be our striker or our attacking player for the next 5-10 years potentially with his age and that kind of stuff? Do we really believe that? Or is it a massive gamble we're taking based on the fact he had a good season with Bournemouth and we're not actually 100% sure whether he is that good? I mean, when I look at him, I think he's a brilliant player, and I would love him in a Tottenham shirt, and I think he's going to be a very good player for many years to come. But it depends kind of what level. Do we think he's going to be world class? Do we think he should be very good? Like, do we think he's potentially a 30, 40 goal a season player down the line? Or is he always going to be around that 15 to 20 goal mark? I mean, those things go into that calculation, but it's a tough one. I mean, 100 million is a hell of a gamble on someone who's only had one good season. So I understand the trepidation, but on top of that, looking at him, I can't help think this guy is going to be a very good player for many years to come.
Yeah, it's mouth-watering, the prospect of signing Kroupi, but like I said yesterday, I just think the money being banded about for him is nuts. But don't get me wrong, if we do go put that money down, I'll be incredibly excited to get him through the door, and I would like us to go and do it. But like, if you ask me, would I rather sign Kroupi for 100 million or like Morgan Rogers for 100 million? Morgan Rogers is a safer bet right now, for sure.
Of course, yeah.
So basically, everyone's been going, what's going on with Rafael Leao? Obviously, it's gone very quiet on the Leao situation. Heard from Spurs, basically, was talking about it a couple of weeks ago, and he says, to follow up on it, apparently Leao, in negotiations, wanted 20 million per year, which is close to 400k a week. So that is why I think things have gone a bit quiet on the Leao front.
Well, I mean, it could be deceptive. Is that pre or post-tax? Because if it's pre-tax, that is like 200 grand a week, which is not.
Yeah, but all these figures that are banded about is always pre-tax.
Yeah, but
figures.
when it's coming from an ITK, you don't really know, do you, what information they've heard and how they're relaying it. It's
yeah, but
what
I'm saying is when you hear of a player's wages, it's always pre-tax.
Usually. You mean post-tax?
No, pre.
Pre. So that's 200 grand a week then?
No. I mean, it's pre-tax.
After tax.
Before tax.
Before tax is 20 million.
Yeah.
Then that means after tax.
No, I
is
mean
12.
like the tax gets taken off that.
Yeah. So that's post-tax then.
Post-tax.
Yeah. Then that would be 400. I mean, that means he wants 800 grand a week. In theory.
No, sorry. He wants 20 million a year. That's it. Tax included.
Yeah. So that's post-tax. Yeah. So, yeah, that's ridiculous. Obviously, no one's paying him that. I mean, right now, we looked at his wage, didn't we? And he was like on what
160 or something.
Yeah. So he wants basically double his wage, essentially. It was that he's never going to get that at Tottenham. I say that. I mean, we are willing to give that wage, but I just don't think to him. I think obviously we've upped our wage structure for Tonali. He's now going to be on 250 or close to 300 because we feel like he's worth it. But Leao was way too much of a risk to be spending that kind of money on him. That would be insane. So if that is true, then we were right to walk away. This is what I was saying about Leao. Is he coming? If he was coming because he wants to test himself against the best and he believes, he's stagnated at AC Milan and he wants to test himself in a bigger league and that will push him to be a better player and De Zerbi can push him to get more out of him, then he would probably accept a modest wage rise rather than demanding double. Right, if he's coming here because he thinks he can get a bigger payday and he's not actually interested in the sporting side, he's more interested in, the glamour of the Premier League and just getting the big money and all that kind of stuff, and he's going to continue to, be inconsistent and flatter to deceive, then he ain't worth bringing. So, and for me, if that's how much his agent is demanding, and it's not just an opening gambit, an opening negotiation, that's like, if he's being stubborn on that price, then let him go because he ain't worth the trouble.
No chance. No chance should he be like double what our highest earners on. It's just nuts. That is nuts to think about with the issues that he's had over the last couple of years. Like, yeah, he can go to Saudi if he wants that kind of money. You know what I mean? Like, nobody in the Premier League is going to pay him that kind of money. And he came out specifically saying he wants to move to the Premier League, which suggested he wanted to move for a sporting project, not for. Obviously, you get better money in the Premier League, but still. You're not going to get that kind of money. Nobody's going to pay you that. If you want that kind of money, you go to Turkey or you go to the Saudi League. That's where you're going to get it, especially as there's no tax involved.
But I think he probably sees himself as a player with the quality to be on that kind of money. And the thing is, he does have that quality. But the reality is, he hasn't shown it enough. That's on him. I think if he plays at his very best, right, for consistently, he could maybe be maybe not 400 grand a week, but close to, or a lot more than what he's on right now. 100%, this guy could be on the money that some of the best wingers are on in the Premier League. I've got no doubt about that if he plays to his potential. But he's got to prove that he can do that consistently over a long stretch of games and be at his very best. And over the last couple of years, he just hasn't done that. So no one's going to be paying him that kind of money until he proves it. That's just the truth. Yeah. But for him, he probably looks at it and thinks, I'm this kind of level. I've got, I'm this kind of player. His agent's probably in his ear telling him, you should be on this money. You're trying to get the best, deal for him possible. And he's probably looking at some of the best wingers, what they're on in the Premier League. He's like, yeah, let's go for something like that. But his stock isn't that high right now. He's got to realise that.
Yeah. Like I said, he'll get that money probably in Saudi or Turkey. And if he's being stubborn on that price, that's where he's going to end up because AC Milan don't want him anymore. No Premier League clubs are going to pick him up, and that's it. Like, there's no other big clubs there, so he's not going to go to Real Madrid or Barcelona. So he's going to end up in Saudi or Turkey.
Well, it just shows where his head's at. That's where he's demanding, doesn't it?
100%. So we'll see what happens with him. And just a quick one, it's just worth noting that Morgan Gibbs-White has just changed his agent. So he's clearly angling for a move at some point in the near future, maybe this window or next window. Roof Agency, who currently deal with Mohamed Kudus. So maybe they're getting in his ear saying, look, join us. We can get you that dream move to Tottenham that you always wanted.
Let's hope it's Tottenham, but I think he probably does want to move. That's for sure, because he stayed at Forest and they didn't have the best of seasons. And even though he was a shining light, Forest weren't great. And then last summer, he also wanted to move as well. So usually when players change agents like that, especially during the summer, that is usually an indication of where their head's at and what they want. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some movement there with Morgan Gibbs-White and his future, and he starts angling for a move. Let's hope Tottenham are ones to swoop in. I mean, if we can get him for half the price of Rodgers, it probably makes a bit more sense. As much as I think Rodgers is maybe a bit of a better player, I think Gibbs-White obviously is a great player himself. So if you can get him for half the price, it probably makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, exactly. So watch this space. That is your Tottenham update for today. Let me know in the comment section below all your thoughts regarding all the news stories that we have brought you today.